Okay, my experiment today is to DIY what they're calling on the internet now as unicorn spit. Obviously, it's a gel-like paint. That's what I think. I don't have any, so I can't compare the real thing. But I thought I would try to see if I couldn't make some so-called unicorn spit with products I had on hand. I was reading one about making a gel out of cornstarch, where you have to mix it, get it on the stove, and make it so that it gets kind of, I don't want to say the word glutinous because it's not got flour in it. So at any rate, I think it's safe to say it could get thick and gel-like. Then I realized my husband had bought me this hand sanitizer. I think it's either from Walmart or Costco. Anyway, and obviously I use a lot of it. Well, it is gel, and it's got alcohol in it, right? Well, alcohol will disappear. This product has no problem being used with polymer clay to clean various things. And so what I did is I put some drops of it in these little cups, right? I also happened to have on hand some powders. These are pigment powders. So I had those. I've had those for years, as it's turned out. I got them from a company. They're called Duva, D''UVA, but they're pigment powders, and I don't think they make these anymore, but I have kept them, and I have a lot of it. But I thought I would just use the green and the blue. I also have some other colors here, like this one here. And I've put them in these small containers because I have large jars of them. And I've never used them for painting. I don't know why. I just never have bought them and never used them. Anyway, so here's what I've got. And I think I'm going to try it. So now I have rolled out some souffle clay. And I'm going to try to paint some of my DIY unicorn spit on this clay. Let it dry and see what happens. So here I go. I'm not really going to use a paintbrush. I'm going to just use the stick, a little thin stick that I mixed it with. And so here I go. Let's see. Now let me get the green and mix some of that up and see what I get. Not too bad. It's looking pretty good. So now I will have to come back, let this dry, and see what happens. I think I'm going to use my fingers, which means, well, I should put a cot. Let me get a finger cot or a rubber glove or something, because I know I'm going to get my finger's all messy. And I'm sorry it's not focusing. But anyway, maybe I'll hold it and see. So you can see, sort of like finger paints. Let's see if I can't just kind of make swirls and see what I can do. It looks like what they're calling. Now, if I hadn't had the pigment, and I might try this later, is I might have just used some paint to color it. But the nice thing about the pigment is I don't have to add the business of water. So this is alcohol. I think this is alcohol and some kind of a gel in that sanitizer. I guess it's like Purell, frankly. So if you have any of that laying around, you might just try it. Anyway, here's my first experiment. And let's see how it goes. I'm going to pause or stop this now and then come back after it's dry. It's kind of fun, and it just seems to work nicely. All right. So let me stop this and continue it when I have a little bit of that DIY unicorn spit left over that I made with my bottle of gel hand sanitizer, and added some colored pigment. See the blue over there, and then there's a green I also added. And the result is this. Now I'm trying to experiment with it on polymer clay, waiting for it to dry. And so I thought, why don't I try it on wood? This is the back of a rubber stamp. That's the wood that I have on hand. So I'm going to see what it looks like if I dip a paintbrush. I don't have that working right here. Yeah, a paintbrush, just a big old fat paintbrush, into the, let me move this aside, and try the wood, just for the heck of it. And so here I go. I'm going to stick my paintbrush in here and apply it to this wood. Now, I didn't sand it, so it's just a little porous. Then I'll use the blue. I'm not even going to clean my brush, so you can see it's gotten just a tiny bit thicker as the alcohol evaporates. So we'll see what happens here. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I mean, I'm trying not to. I have so many supplies that I've bought over the years and various hobbies of mine. So many. I'm trying to find ways of using them. And I know, this, everybody, but this alcohol, this so-called unicorn spit's pretty expensive stuff, actually. It's not cheap. So that's what I'm doing. Let's see what happens if I mix a color. Oh, it's kind of pretty. If I just put some blue over the green, and maybe I'll put some green over the blue. And I'm thinking, depending on how this all dries, it could be quite pretty. So again, waiting for it to dry. Let me lift my camera up. The color's really pretty, isn't it? You can see it's thick. I don't know what's going to happen if it dries. And there's my paintbrush, and I didn't even bother cleaning it in between. And I'm just trying to get the extra paint off here and maybe make some textures. Yeah, let me just try that also. And I'll leave that one side just with the paintbrush. Alright, so that's that. I think I'll just scraping it off. That way I can kind of look and see what that does. I'm assuming it will dry. If it doesn't dry, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll just wipe it all off, I guess. I'm just cleaning the brush an easy way by just scooching it onto the edges. Before I try to wash it. Just holding it. Oh, maybe I've just made a mess, huh? Wouldn't be the first time. Nope, it just would not be. God, I love experimenting. Anyway, I'm hoping it works with the polymer clay, but look at that. Alright, that's it for now. I'm going to come down here, show you the mess. Wait till it dries and see what happens. I haven't tried it on a canvas, and I do have some. I should just empty this on paper and see what happens. I think I'll do that. I have some paper handy that has been printed on. Oh, kind of cool. Look at that. So, let's see what that's going to look like before I run all of the stuff down the sink when I wash it. Kind of pretty. This would be interesting to use on a jelly plate also. Anyway, the end of this experiment, and we'll come back and I'll deal with what it looks like when it all dries. And it has it's dry, and yes, it does come off on my fingers. But I had read that even the stuff called unicorn spit has to be protected with a coating of some sort. And but that's the paper version. What's interesting here is this wood version, which I think you'll agree is amazing. You saw the big piles of it on the edge. One of it dripped down there. But it has dried pretty well. And I'm sure, actually, it comes off that paper, but doesn't come off the wood. So because the surface of the wood was more porous, it did not come off. So there's my version of it. I'm going to do two things. Well, I'm going to use the back of this as well as the polymer clay. Now, I did come back upstairs where my stuff is, and the bottom layer was dry on this piece. But I had those, I didn't want to waste the product that I had made up in these cups. This is a small little cup, just to give you a dimension here. So I used up this and more of the blue to add yet another layer. I started this piece, which wasn't done before, and then I added some more to this other side. And so it's not dry yet. And then what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to see how it can be manipulated into something I can make. And then I'm going to cover some of it with UV resin, maybe. I have a couple of ideas. But the patterns in there are pretty amazing. I don't know how I got that little squiggly pattern, because all I did was smear it. I stuck my finger in these containers and just patted more color on top and smeared it around. So I don't even know how. Maybe I tapped it with my fingers. I put it caught on my fingertip and then maybe patted it. I think that's how I got those, but look how interesting the little patterns in there are now that they're sort of like finger painting, right? And this one here. So more information to come. I'm really happy with. I'm definitely going to do some more of this because look at the beautiful patterns. Pretty awesome. Amazing. Yeah, and these, I think when I patted, it makes the paint kind of shoot out. I wasn't aware it was doing this while I was doing it, but now that I'm looking at it, looks like I went through a whole lot more trouble to get those patterns. So 2 layers. Whoa, and I added the green on top of the blue and then some blue on top of the green. So, all right. I'm thinking this definitely has some potential. I need to try my other colors. The depth is pretty good on these, I think you'll admit. If it remains when it dries, the wood, and perhaps not as much depth. And maybe it's only because the other parts